I know personally that I'm more inclined to help somebody if they're working to help themselves. How is the African Union, are they doing all they can to help what's going on in the situation? Because it doesn't seem like they're really doing everything that they can.
Well, they're really struggling right now. You don't have any American troops, any troops from the Western world deploying to help stop this genocide. So the mere commitment of Africans that are willing to go on the ground in Darfur is huge. They're the ones that are patrolling the camps. They're the ones that are trying to stop the Janjaweed and ensure that none of the Sudanese gunships are flying and bombing the villages. So they're doing a lot. Unfortunately, they just don't have a lot of resources like what we have. There's only 7,000 African Union troops in the size of France. So that's very, very little. We spend about what we're spending on Darfur, what we want to spend for the African Union all of next year is what we spend at 14 hours in Iraq. So that shows you the scale. They need a lot more supports to be able to stop this genocide. And they're just asking us for support. They're not calling for U.S. boots. They just need money, they need planes, they need maps.
And if I can, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I think it's so important for us all to have sharp thinking about this. And I hope you don't mean to suggest that one has to earn help from getting out from under a genocide.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, it would make me more comfortable. I think it would make Americans more comfortable to see that if the African Union was doing everything that they could and it's not enough and they need our support for that. It seems like they're kind of hesitant to support what's going on in Darfur. And so if they're not doing everything they can, it draws back from us helping to support them. So I just wasn't sure if they were doing everything.
And I think this goes back to, once again, the role of the media. There's so much talk about military action, but once again, genocide is a crime against humanity that I think we can all in the studio and all in the TV audience agree needs to be stopped, and then we can discuss where to go from there.
Definitely. This is again, it's man-made, so it's a political situation where you've got people who have got grievances. The Darfurians want to have the same resources that everyone else in Sudan gets to have by being a Sudanese citizen. So that's why they need more resources and more representation in their own government. So you're not supposed to respond to that by committing a genocide. So hopefully we can stop the genocide and then address those clear grievances from the people of Darfur.
Okay. Yes?
My name's Megan Gaffney, and do you believe that Omar al-Bashir is affecting the UN's efforts to suppress the genocide happening in Sudan?
Definitely, he is. He's trying to, just like Hitler, or just like Pol Pot in Cambodia, he's trying to stop anyone from avoiding his plans to exterminate the people of Darfur. So he's trying to do everything in his power to stop the UN, stop the US, stop the EU from helping stop this genocide.
Yes.
Chris Jelinek, I was just wondering if you think that part of the media's reluctance to cover the story has to do with, in order to do so, they do to a certain extent have to admit that they made a mistake. The big corporations start covering the story now. People are going to be wondering, where were you a year ago or 2 years ago?
Yeah, I'm sure they feel some sense of guilt that they're not covering the world's worst humanitarian crisis. And they should, but that's not a reason to stop doing it. We're trying to get more media, and that's where people are writing letters to their editor and writing op-eds asking the media to increase more coverage.
Have you had personal contact with anyone that has been impacted by the genocide there in your efforts to get more publicity, more awareness?
Yeah, we've met both humanitarian aid workers who are working on the ground, and we've met Darfurians who have come to the U.S., both from fleeing the conflict or that they're actually going to go and return because they're helping their own people. And
that is such an important part of the media coverage to, as one of the students said earlier, put a face on the crisis. What happens when the escaped Darfurian comes to the United States and then tells their story here?
Well, one famous one, Dr. Mudawi Ibrahim, he was able to meet the President of the United States to give him a first-hand account of what was happening. So he's gotten awards from different human rights organizations, so he's been able to get a lot of coverage. Unfortunately, because it's so far away, most Darfurians aren't able to make it to the United States. They make it to Chad or Uganda or Egypt, and few to Britain. So unfortunately, we haven't been able to get many of them into safety in the United States.
And it is the sustained media coverage that actually results in pressure on governments to take action, rather than the episodic media coverage, which, once again, is hard for the average citizen voter to kind of follow, to leverage the pressure on their own political leader.
The media plays a critical role. We saw how the media actually helped commit a genocide in Rwanda with a hate speech on the radios, and to the other extreme of being just silence, which is complicity, and then it's sort of spotty in between, where we've got some media covering it and others not covering it enough while they should.
We do see occasionally media crews are able to get into the country or into the refugee camps. Who works with them? Are there people on the ground who, whenever they can, will help the media get in there to get a piece of the story visually?
Right. A lot of the humanitarian organizations, organizations, help the media come to the camps, get the stories, connect them with refugees who may be able to speak English better than other of the refugees. So they help a lot. That was the case with George Clooney. He worked with a lot of the humanitarian aid organizations to come to Darfur and get to meet them.
Okay. We have a lot of students standing up. Let's start on the far left over here. Yes, sir.
I'm Ben DeGrasse. I was wondering, would you say that it's more of the fault of the current administration for not getting so little done, or is it more of a fault of the American people for not letting our administration know that this is important to us?
It's a great question. I would say both. This administration has done far more than any other. If you look at the Clinton administration during Rwanda, they didn't even call it a genocide, and they allowed close to 1 million Rwandans to be slaughtered in 100 days. That's 2 9/11s every day for 100 days, and the U.S. did nothing. On the case of Darfur, the Bush administration has called it a genocide. They're supporting the African Union peacekeepers. They're giving a lot of humanitarian aid, but it's nowhere close to where the leader of the free world should be on stopping a genocide. He's asking for permission from Sudan to help stop this genocide, and that's absurd for President Bush to accept that type of scenario. And the American people should also do a lot more. In Rwanda, it happened really fast, but this is what's called Rwandan slow motion, and we're not seeing that same response from Americans in a genocide in the 21st century. So it's frustrating on both ends, but we're optimistic that we can see more leadership from the American public and the president.
Let me ask you, as a